The manhwa starts by showing us a pavilion inside of Murim. A man begins speaking, and this is the living Buddha named Master Mu-san, asking someone what they want to know about why Yonyo. The person says that's right, and they're compiling materials to document his history. Mu-san laughs, saying that Yonyo, the radiant martial sovereign, was a very benevolent and upright man, and the Buddha must have sent him down to them. The historian says that it's just as she thought, wondering what he was like in his everyday life. Mu-san starts shaking, talking about his daily behavior and his appearance, but says that he can't do this shit anymore, and he looks pissed. The historian asks what he's talking about, and why he's swearing as a Buddhist. It then jumps to the historian gets kicked out of the Pyang clan by the supreme elder of the clan named Pyang Dojuk, saying that he's so damn tired of hearing Yonyo's name. It's always something to do with him. He wonders why the historian is even here, telling his men to bring a bag of salt scattered around to keep the ghost out. We learn more about Yonyo, the radiant martial sovereign. He's a legendary figure who ended the era of chaos, a true gentleman and a great man, and a renowned chivalrous warrior often spoken of across the world. Some call him the greatest of all time, and others the greatest chivalrous warrior. But she doesn't know why every single person avoids talking about him. And as a historian, this is her duty to document even the hidden sides of history. Today, she may finally learn the reason why. As she heads to the beggar sect, she talks to the divine mad dog, who laughs at her for getting chased away from Shaolin and the Pyang clan. The historian says that everybody's responses were pretty much the same wherever she went. The moment she brought up Yonyo's name, they'd all just treat her harshly. The mad dog says of course they would react like that. She asks what he means, and he starts to explain it. We get a flashback to 100 years ago in Guangdong, specifically at the Y clan, and that he was the absolute worst kind of person. And as we see him laying on his bed, he says he wants to become the strongest. And this was when he was only 12 years old. There was once a boy who dreamed of becoming the greatest under the heavens. Born into a martial clan, he was raised learning the chivalry of warriors. Because of that, he already knew the quickest path to the top, and that path was through nothing but relentless effort. And he says no matter how gifted he is, nothing comes without effort, and effort is the only true way forward. But even though he knew all this, there was one small issue. He looks out the window, seeing the sun already setting, saying that it's too late to begin. He sits up, taking another look outside, and then starts to just flip over, laying back on his side. He says it sure is a shame, as today was supposed to be the day that he laid the foundations to become the best. And then he says he'll sleep soundly tonight and train tomorrow. Someone enters his room and starts approaching him, saying to get up. Yonyo doesn't react, and the guy yells, saying to wake the hell up. Yonyo does, asking what brings him here. And this is his father, the patriarch of the clan, and the righteous chivalrous swordsman named Jengen, asking if he knows what time it is. Yonyo says he saw the sun, and Jengen asks why he's still laying in bed. He says that's because the sun is going down. Jengen asks how long he's been holed up in his room. Yonyo says maybe 2 or 3 days, but he thinks it's 2. His father says it's been 4 days already, and he's been rolling around wrapped in a blanket for 4 damn days. Saying surely his back hurts from laying that long, even a bear would flip over from sweat after 3 days. Yonyo laughs, saying that's why he gets up every now and again, and he doesn't need to worry. His father gets furious, and Yonyo realizes this and tells him that he actually tried to train. His father asks how it went, but Yonyo says every time he opened his eyes, the sun was already setting. His father asks why that matters, and Yonyo says when the sun sets, you have to sleep. That way he can get up early the next day to train. His father flips his entire bed, picking it up, and starts screaming at him, saying he's going to fix that rotten attitude of his today, and then he's going to straighten him out for good. Back inside of Jengen's office, he's frustrated. The administrator named Joe Bang asks if this is about the second young master again. Jengen asks who else he can be worried about, and Bang tells him not to worry, as he'll mature soon enough. Jengen sighs, saying it's all his fault. He left on a martial duel pilgrimage the year that Yonyo turned 2, leaving his wife Han Sanga, his older son Sanho, Yonyo, and then their unborn child Surian. At that time, he thought the journey was only going to be at most 2 years. However, he got caught up in various incidents, and it wasn't until a whole 8 years later that he was able to return, and the entire clan greeted him. And though he earned the honorary title of righteous chivalrous swordsman, what he lost was far too great. When he returned, his once gentle wife had become fiercer than a tiger, saying that 8 years is too damn long. And his beloved son, whom he thought would not be a problem at all, had turned into a damn sloth. Jengen exhales, full of stress, and Bang tells him not to worry, as there should be a way. Jengen asks how, and Bang says that surely he hasn't forgotten that he'll be returning soon. Jengen asks what he's talking about, and then realizes that he's talking about his son. Bang says after 3 years, he'll finally be back from the academy. Jengen laughs, saying that Yonyo's in for it, because there's only one person he is actually truly scared of. Back to Yonyo getting the chills, he turns, wondering what it is, only to see that it's his brother Sanho, glaring down at him. Sanho asks how long he's been asleep, and Yonyo just wonders how long he's been there. Sanho says he asked first, and Yonyo realizes that he can't lie, but is very nervous. And Sanho just continues glaring at him. Yonyo says that it's not what he thinks. He trained early this morning, and he trained really hard, and he just took a nap because he got tired. He just wonders when his brother got back though. Sanho asks if he really trained, and Yonyo says yes. His brother then tells him to use a technique to cut that candle in two, and he wants to see how much he's improved over these 3 years. Yonyo gets up and holds his sword, and Sanho tells him to go ahead, wondering what he's waiting for. Yonyo says that they are indoors, and it could be dangerous. But Sanho says that he'll take care of all that, he just needs to show him what he's got. Yonyo says okay, and decides to do it, saying here goes nothing. He starts twirling his sword, and points it forward at the candle. He waits a second before dashing forward, doing a whole bunch of sword techniques as he flies across the room. And his brother looks surprised as Yonyo uses a technique called the soaring dragon. He swings, landing way past the candle. He turns, wondering if he did it, only to see that he didn't hurt it at all. And he says he can't believe he did all that for nothing. And Sanho says it's been 3 whole years, and that is enough for him to master a sword technique and to move on to another one, but in his case, it seems that he's gotten way worse than he was 3 years ago, and he leaves. Later that night at dinner, we see them all sitting around a table. Yonyo says he's gonna get indigestion, and he's sure of it. Jengen asks how the academy is, and Sanho says it's fine. His father wonders if he's had any difficulties, and he says that if there were no hardships, it wouldn't be training, and he believes they are essential in order to overcome himself. Jengen, proud of his son, says that he's suffered a lot in his absence. But Sanho says that he's the one who had it harder being away for so long. Jengen asks if he's had any other issues, and Sanho puts his chopsticks down, saying that there is a pretty big one. His mother Sangha wonders what's wrong, and he says that it's about Yonyo. They all kind of look worried, and Yonyo just wonders what the hell he did. Sanho continues, saying that he thinks that they need to bring him to his martial academy. Yonyo says hell no. And back to the mad dog telling the story, he said that even Mu-san and Dojuk grind their teeth at the mere mention of Yonyo's name. But this was the very start of the story, of when his great history began, as someone who stood above even the heavens and the martial realm, as he was completely untouchable. And nobody could have imagined that this lazy boy would have turned into somebody so strong. Back to Yonyo, he says he wants to rest a bit before they go, even though they just left the house. Yonyo looks back at his family, and his little sister, Surian, who is bawling her eyes out, telling him not to go. But his dad tells him to come back a man, and his mother just tells him to take care of himself. And they knew they couldn't stop him, even though they were a little sad to see him go. He tells them not to cry, as he'll be back. Surian waves him goodbye while Jengen laughs, and Sangha barks at him for laughing. As they're heading out, the journey was pretty smooth. At least that was the case only for Sanho, because Yonyo was dead tired. He asks him if they're almost there, and Sanho tells him there's 10 more days left. Yonyo asks if he heard that right, and Sanho says they would have gotten there in 5 if he knew how to ride a horse. Yonyo says he told him he's never ridden one before, and his brother says he wasn't blaming him, he was just answering his question. Yonyo says they should rest, and if he knows how steep the hill is, he's really tired. He feels like his back and ass are going to burst. He points over to a tree on a field, saying that those people are resting as well. Sanho looks over but realizes that they're not just sleeping. He hops off of his horse, and Yonyo asks what he's doing. Sanho approaches them and looks down, seeing flies on their corpses, and Yonyo asks what he's doing, but Sanho says they were too late, as every one of these men are dead. Yonyo starts screaming, and Sanho tells him to take a look at this as he takes off one of their clothes, showing a flower wound on a man's chest. He says this is called the flower-indulging palm. Yonyo asks what the hell kind of name that is, and Sanho says it used to be called the crimson flower palm, but because of a rapist named Seo Ju-ak who went around committing evil acts using this technique, it became the flower-indulging palm. Yonyo asks if he's trying to say there's a rapist around here. Sanho says he goes for women who are climbing the mountains, and that these bodies mean that he ambushed them while trying to get a woman. In other words, there's a woman in danger somewhere around here. He dashes off the ground, telling his brother to stay here, and he flies off like he's Superman, and Yonyo asks if he's really meant to stay here with these stinky-ass corpses, but his brother is way too gone. Yonyo realizes that there's no point in screaming, and looks over grossed out as he's stuck with two horses who also stink, and actual rotting corpses, and he says that he's screwed. Later that night, he says he doesn't know where his brother is because it's taking him so long, and he should have just brought him along like with him. He wonders if maybe something happened, but there's no way his brother would be this late otherwise. He starts to hear the sound of some animals, and he says that he needs to do something because he might become a tiger's dinner if he just stands here like this. Then lightning strikes behind him, scaring him as it begins to have a very heavy downpour, drenching everything, and he looks up saying that he's actually screwed. We then hear him screaming, and he wonders how he ended up like this, as he's put both of the corpses on horseback and is pushing them up a hill, saying that he can't just leave them behind since they might become tiger food, and he can't bury them either because it's raining, and he needs to find some shelter now. As he's pushing the horse is getting mad at him, and Yonyo asks why it's not listening to him. With the river rapid below, and them being on the edge of a cliff, stressing the horse out, lightning strikes, scaring it, causing it to kick Yonyo. Yonyo screams and starts to fall backwards down the hill, hitting his head, his back, and then his head once more, landing in some bushes at the bottom. He starts groaning and saying that he can't believe that damn horse, but when he looks around, he realizes that he's in a cave, and there's no rain. He starts screaming, saying that he finally found shelter, and the horses follow him in, still carrying the two men. Yonyo ties them off to a rock, saying that he can't even hit them, and that this is why he prefers to stay home. He left a mark outside the cave, so hopefully his brother can find him, but he's low-key a little worried. Realizing he doesn't know what to do, he decides to just lay down and try to sleep, but when he does, he starts thinking about his brother, saying that he really hopes nothing went wrong, but says that his brother is strong, and he's sure that he'll be fine. As he starts falling asleep, the horses eat the rope and walk off, leaving him in the cave alone. As morning rises, it sets once more. Bro literally slept all day. But then an aura starts to envelop him in the middle of his sleep, as he starts floating in the middle of the cave. It lifts him up towards the ceiling, and then starts floating him deeper into the cave, still completely asleep. His head then starts to phase through a rock, and he vanishes like he was never in the cave to begin with. When he comes to, he wonders what he's looking at, as there's a weird green aura floating around the room. He says that this is weird, and it looks like the cave he was in, and he wonders if maybe he rolled in deeper in his sleep. He then hears a voice calling him fated human. He starts screaming and falls to the floor, and looking up surprised. An orb then welcomes him to the fated place, calling him the successor of their radiant sword. Yonyo asks if this sparkling thing is speaking. The orb says that they have transcended the restraints of a physical being, and they are speaking from beyond time and space. If he accepts their offer, he will rule the world. Yonyo starts freaking out because it's a ghost, and they tell him not to be afraid. They are already dead, only their will has been left behind, and that they have prepared this for someone who will get hereafter, so he should accept it without doubt. Yonyo says that this situation seems familiar. A cave without human presence, and an old man's will. Realizing that this is something told in so many Muram stories, he says that this is a fated encounter, and starts getting happy. He says the heavens are rewarding him for his kindness. He won't even have to go to the martial training hall if he becomes strong right here. As the orb tells him that there is no time, they need to inherit his sword and write the morals of the world. They will teach the radiant sword, and he can train himself endlessly. Yonyo just keeps agreeing to everything they say. The orb says that he should be talented enough if he has his blood, and if he trains hard here for 30 years, he should be able to replicate his technique somewhat. Yonyo asks if he heard that right, and if it's really 30 years. They say yes, it's only 30. Yonyo tells him to wait, and he says that he doesn't think this shit is for him, and that he should double it up and give it to the next person. The orb, silent for a second, then starts screaming, asking what he means. Yonyo says he'd rather let this go than stay here for 30 years. The mad dog continues explaining the story, saying that that meeting is how the loser Yonyo actually came to become so strong. He starts to run away from the orb, and the orb tells him to wait. Yonyo turns, and we see an old man take form, saying to wait just 1 second. And then his name is Beck Mahan, which also means white infinity. Yonyo looks at Mahan for a second and says that he knew he was a scammer. The old man is surprised, asking what he means by that. Yonyo says he pretended to be one thing, and when that didn't work, he revealed his true self. Mahan says that he wasn't pretending, he is actually a spirit who has left his body. Yonyo asks if he's really meant to believe that, before screaming and punching straight through his head. As we see his entire arm start to go through him, he falls forward through the old man, who asks what he's doing. Yonyo starts freaking out since he's really a ghost. Mahan says he's not a ghost. This is the spirit transmission arts, something only martial artists at a very high level can use. Yonyo says that they call people like him ghosts, and he says that he's not one, and starts screaming. Back to the present with the story being told, the mad dog says that was how Yonyo met his master. The historian asks if something like that really exists, and he says that it's a technique only martial artists of the highest level can attain. She asks who one martial artist is that can use the ability, and he asks if she knows the Sword Emperor. She says that is a given, he's the strongest person in history, and the greatest in the Thousand Sword Beck clan, who will be remembered forever. The mad dog says exactly, he's talking about Beck Mahan, the Radiant Sword. The man who was later called Sword Emperor is the Radiant Sovereign's master. She's surprised, saying that he lived 300 years ago. The mad dog says that's right, and he's from an already forgotten generation. Regardless, it's true that he made Yonyo. She says that's incredible, and if that means the Radiant Martial Sovereign requested to be his disciple right after hearing his name. He laughs, saying that Yonyo was actually the opposite. The Sword Emperor, who figured none of his descendants looked for him for 300 years, needed a disciple at all cost and begged that Yonyo do it. Yonyo asks why he's throwing a tantrum, as he's not even from the Beck clan, and he really can't learn from him, so he's gonna go. Mahan asks if he thinks he'd let him go so easily, as he stretches his hands out using his aura to close the cave off. Yonyo looks up, confused. Mahan asks what he thinks, as it's a super thick stone gate, and with his current abilities he'll never be able to lift or break it. But if he learns his martial arts, he'll be able to cut through it like a piece of paper and leave. Yonyo says there's no helping it, and starts reaching into his robe. Mahan says he won't be able to cut it with his abilities. Yonyo starts hacking away at the hole, and the old man is confused, asking him what he's doing. Yonyo says surely he can tell that he's digging a hole. No matter how strong it is, it's still stone, which means it'll slowly break down if he grinds it with metal, and he'll break through in a year or two. Mahan asks if he really plans to do this for that long. Yonyo says that's nothing when he's trying to get him stuck in here for 30. Mahan calls him a madman, saying that he can't even beat him to death, and tells him to just try learning, as he won't disappoint him. But Yonyo says he doesn't like him. Mahan continues, saying that he'll allow him to leave after 20. Yonyo says 20 is too long, and he'd only consider it if he said 3. Mahan starts to get pissed, saying that that's a joke, and there's no way he'd learn it in 3 years. Even if Zhang Sanfeng came back to life, he wouldn't be able to do that. Yonyo says he guesses that means they're not meant to be, and gets back to digging at the wall, making him furious. Mahan says 5 years, causing Yonyo to stop. He says if he gives him 5 years, he'll do whatever it takes to make him the strongest in the world in 5 years. With that being Yonyo's dream, he starts thinking about it as a tempting offer. Yonyo says he's never even heard of a spirit as vivid as him, and maybe the technique just isn't told by word of mouth. And he might be telling half the truth, and he might actually have been the strongest in the world at some point, and that he'll use this opportunity since 5 years isn't that long, and he agrees, saying that he'll do it. Continues, saying of course Yonyo didn't know that he was the Sword Emperor at the time. The Sword Emperor is quite unfortunate as well, since the person he met at the end of his life just happened to be none other than Yonyo. Mahan tells him to wake up already, calling him a bastard. And when Yonyo does, he wonders why he's waking him up, saying that he's so tired, asking if he doesn't need sleep. But says that it's only because he's dead, and he's a human, and that humans need to sleep. Mahan held back all of his frustration, and says that they can start training now. After all, the disciple he had finally received at the end of his life was nothing but a lazy bastard. Yonyo asks if he's really meant to train as soon as he woke up. It turns out that all he would do is sleep all day and practice the moves once during training. Mahan tries telling him that it's going to take 50 years at this rate, not 5. Yonyo asks if there's an easier way to learn, and Mahan says this is as easy as it gets. Yonyo says if he didn't speak at the very least, it would be less annoying, and that this is why he needs to meet a talented master. These words echoed throughout Mahan's head, but he still held back his anger, and if he had an actual body he would have suffered key deviation and collapse from anger. He says he can't believe he wanted nothing but success and to pass down his martial arts, leaving his spirit in this awful state, forcing him to endure this shit, and if he had a body, he would have beaten the hell out of this kid to teach him a lesson. Yonyo starts rolling around on the floor and asks Mahan how he did that. Mahan asks what he's talking about. Yonyo says dropping that stone gate, saying that can't he use that power to manipulate his body to teach him martial arts. He says that he just pulled a string on a device he had already made in advance. And Yonyo asks how, when he doesn't have a body. And Mahan says it's unrelated to that. He simply used psychic levitation to pull the string with ki alone. He then realizes what Yonyo is talking about, and starts laughing, wondering why he didn't think about this earlier. Yonyo wonders what's wrong with him, and if he's finally gone crazy. He says that he was too fixated on thinking that he doesn't have a body. Or maybe that's because they're incomplete parts, since he has been maintaining this spirit for 300 years. But, thanks to him, he learned something good. Yonyo asks what he's talking about, and when he hears, he feels something brush by his face and hears a loud-ass sound. He turns, wondering what that was just now, as we see a rock embedded into the wall beside him. And Mahan says thanks to him, he realized that even if he doesn't have a body, he can still move rocks whenever he wants. Yonyo, getting worried, Mahan says that this means that if he can move the rocks, he can do things like this, as he starts preparing to shotgun him. Yonyo screams, saying to wait, and calls him old man, but corrects himself, saying that he wants to talk to his master. And that day, Mahan and Yonyo's training continued day and night. He learned swordsmanship without rest during the day, as if he did try to rest, the old man would force him up, and they debated during the night. Whenever Yonyo slept, he trained using the unparalleled dream, mythic arts that Mahan taught him, and for him, living became living to become a sword of the radiant arts. And he is on his way to achieve that, as we see he actually stops his master's rocks of love. And his master looked proud. And that was how 5 years passed by in a flash. He got to the point when Yonyo could lift the gate by himself with pure strength, and when he returned, he looked up at the sky, and it was time for him to finally show the world who he had become. But before that, it jumps back to a whole day ago, and Yonyo was sleeping on the floor. Mahan calls out to him, and Yonyo asks for a little longer. Mahan calls out to him again, and Yonyo says that he was only gonna sleep for a bit longer, asking why he doesn't believe him. But then he's confused, as Mahan is in his physical form, telling him to come over here. Yonyo asks what's going on, and Mahan says he's learned martial arts for his entire life, and his hope was to see the end of it. So he didn't bother with anything but martial arts, and at the end of solely chasing them, he became a crabby old man who was treated distantly by his clan. Yonyo wonders what's up with him today, since that's very unlike him. Mahan says that when he thinks about it, it was obvious why his clan didn't come looking for him. He, after all, abandoned his children and family all for the sake of martial arts. He thought seeing the end of martial arts would give him everything he wanted, but in the end, he was wrong. Chasing that dream only allowed him to realize what he truly wanted. Martial arts is what humans do, so not walking with people to see the end of swordsmanship is meaningless, and that Yonyo helped him realize that. He taught someone for the first time. He was angry, and annoyed, and he was really frustrated, but he also felt happiness, and learned joy from seeing him grow, and he learned about fondness as well. Yonyo asks what's up with him, as he's acting as if they'll never see each other again. Mahan says that they won't, because it's time. Yonyo's surprised, asking if he's really thinking he's gonna fall for this, as he said he should train for 30 years, and it's only been 5. So he has to exist for 25 more years. Mahan says that he did say that, and Yonyo asks what's the deal then. The internal chi that he gave to him in the form of an elixir was so that he could live without eating in here. That's not something as easy to maintain as he thinks, and he has no more power left, so it's time for him to say goodbye. Yonyo asks why he never told him. If he had, he would have left, found food, and come back to train. Mahan says he's sure he would have come back in his sarcastic tone, and he understands how he feels. He then gets up, saying that he enjoyed the time they shared. And he wanted to watch him travel, and sightsee the world, but this is fine too. And he gives him a very endearing look in his eyes. He can already see Yonyo crisscrossing through the world, flipping it on its head. He tells him to go see the world, and keep it within him, and other things will naturally follow. And that he should see people before he sees the world. While looking up, he didn't see what was at his feet, and he shouldn't make the same mistakes he did. And if no one else knows about his existence, his movements, and his swordsmanship, Mahan will be within them, as they are all residing within Yonyo. He says that even if he's not outstanding or great, that's fine with him. Yonyo tells him that he can't leave, as there is so much he still hasn't learned, and it's not okay for him not to. That he should wait at least a day longer. Mahan fades out into a blue mist, saying that he should just be happy in the end. Yonyo tries to grab out towards him, but realizes it's too late. He stands there in silence for a second, and starts bawling his eyes out, saying that he could have told him earlier. Now back to the present. Yonyo is pissed, saying that this is why he left without telling him in advance. As we see, he ruined Yonyo's clothing by writing on it. Yonyo says that he should have just left nicely, and he wonders why the hell he would do this. Before disappearing, Mahan wrote a message on Yonyo's clothes. To summarize, Yonyo's martial arts that he learned as quickly as possible in 5 years was still incomplete. Since he wouldn't train once Mahan disappeared, he put a sort of feature on Yonyo's body. That being, that his inner elixir that he had swallowed would cause his martial arts to improve, and you might see it as automatically getting stronger, but it's not exactly that. If the martial arts that Yonyo is experiencing and obtaining is slower than the speed of the elixir, his inner energy would be sucked in by Mahan, and he would explode and die. To summarize, he'll die if he's lazy. He knew that damned old man was up to no good. Mahan tells him to travel the world and see things. When he sees the world, he'll learn to feel things. When he feels things, he'll learn things. He shouldn't be satisfied with becoming a small person, or staying in a small place. He needs to see big things, and become a big person. Yonyo clicks his tongue, saying that he's one hell of a guy. He continues, saying that the first place he must go is to Rulin, and find the world's greatest scholar, and stay with him. And that he'll definitely feel something after being there. Yonyo just wonders why the hell he's making him literally go across the entire world. He was going to go home, but he'll go back after resolving everything, so his family shouldn't worry, and he's sure his brother is okay. He looks around, saying that he has to do what he must. Right before he leaves, he bows down to the cave that he met Mahan in. He says that he won't be back, so he should just be aware of that. He can't believe he's bothering him until the end. But he wonders where the hell Rulin is, and how to get there. In the cave, we see Mahan's form taking place once more, and he starts laughing like an absolute demon, saying that if he doesn't learn about the world, he'll dry up like a mummy and die. He wonders what kind of martial arts exist in the world like that, and he can't let him just live in some random place in the middle of nowhere. The world is too broad to let him do that, and it's a waste of his martial arts, calling him a bastard. This is where he actually starts fading out for real, and he says that he was happy thanks to Yonyo, and that he too hopes that he'll be happy as well. Yonyo can smell the change in the wind, and thinks about his master once more. And with that, time has passed, and he is now inside of a place called Kaifeng. His clothes are absolutely disgusting, so are his little dogs. I wish I could clean them off with my tongue. Yonyo is low-key kind of a corpse, and asks if this is Kaifeng. We see the guy he's talking to, sitting on a log, wondering who he is, saying yes, and this is the branch leader of the beggar sect, named Jang Il. Kind of looks like the mad dog. Yonyo says he had came because he had something to ask. Jang Il asks if he has money, and Yonyo asks if he really has to pay. Jang Il says of course, since nothing in this world is free. He takes a good look at Yonyo, saying that his voice sounds like he's barely 20, but his face looks like he's well over 50, and he's never seen such a beggar amongst all of the beggars he's seen, and seems more like a ghost. He wants to do it for free, since it seems they're in the same sect, but there are still rules here. Yonyo asks what he means by the same sect, and Jang Il says he can tell they are. Yonyo asks how the hell he looks like a beggar, and starts slapping his chest, and Jang Il says he's obviously one, and if he has no money, he can't give him info, so he should leave, and he should come with some money after doing some begging. Yonyo asks why he would do that, when he's not a beggar though. Jang Il says it's only natural that he would go beg, and he looks like he could make money just by putting a basket in front of where he sits, wondering why he's wasting his talents. Realizing this is a good chance, he asks if he would like to work together. It then jumps to Yonyo, looking at a whole bunch of money below him, and Jang Il is shaking, and starts freaking out, saying he can't believe he earned half a year of operating costs for this branch in half a day, and that the god of wealth has come to visit them. Jang Il asks what he wants to know, and Yonyo wants a list of locations, hobbies, and specialties of famous scholars, and for blacksmiths. He continues with list after list, and Jang Il says he did promise him, so he can tell him, but he should come back in 7 days. Yonyo says he has nowhere to go, so he'll just stay right here. Jang Il says that's fine with him, and a few days later, Jang Il came to regret those words. One of the members of the sect told him that there was trouble. Yonyo asks what trouble there could be for the beggars, and the guy says that he thinks that they're all going to starve to death. Jang Il asks what he's talking about. The guy tells Jang Il to hurry up and look at this, and he's absolutely surprised. As the merchants are pointing over, saying that if they are beggars, they need to at least be on that level, as they are just raining money all over Yonyo, saying that the pitiful bastard needs to eat. Jang Il was just surprised, because it turned out that Yonyo has completely taken over the beggar world already.